Hey everybody, this is Shari Alexander, and thank you once again for watching another video. My guest today is Dandapani, who, as you can see, is a little bit dressed a little different today, and we're going to find out why. Dandapani was a monk, a Hindu monk, for 10 years. He originally grew up in Australia and then he took his vows, and 5 years ago his vows expired. And rather than moving to Australia, he moved to New York City of all places, and is now a speaker and a coach and has amazing insights in so many areas of self-development. And I thought he was a great fit to talk to about observation. As I was sharing with him a little bit ago, as you guys know, my brand and message is observe, connect, influence. And people get really excited about influence, get people to do what I want them to do, but you can't do that very well unless you connect with that person, and you can't connect with that person unless you're highly observant. Get out of your headspace. Don't let the ego take over, and be present with that person. And I saw Dandapani speak in Toronto not too long ago. So thank you so much for sitting down with me and having a chat, Dandapani.
You're most welcome, Shari. Thank you for having me on your video show. It's so nice.
Well,
to connect again.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So if you don't mind, I think I'm going to give you a personal testimonial for your speaking, as I honestly think you might be the laziest speaker I've ever seen. Because for people who haven't seen you speak, you sit the whole time. You sit and you talk. Can you tell me a little bit tell me a little bit about that decision. Why is that your posture when you speak?
It's interesting you asked that question, because there's another gentleman that attended the event, Isaiah Hankel. I think he's the cheeky scientist.
Yes.
And he sent me a tweet 2 days ago, because I was presenting it at the event here in New York, and he said, "Do you always sit?" And I wrote back, "Yes, I always sit." If you're moving around, you're spending energy walking up and down the stage, and you're focused on walking up and down, doing all kinds of things. But if you're seated and you're totally concentrated, the physical body then is not being distracted. You've calmed the physical body down. Now you can harness all your energy and your focus and direct it completely to the audience.
Wow.
Right? Because people are so distracted by their physical body. If you ask somebody to sit down still for 3 minutes, it will virtually kill them. Most people. Right? It's still nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can actually sit down and take care of the physical body and it's comfortable, then you can direct all your energy towards the audience, and no energy is being dispelled moving the physical body left, right, up and down the stage.
Interesting. I think
my undivided attention to everyone.
Yeah, I get that. That's one thing that I find so fascinating about communication in general, but specifically in public speaking, is there's no right or wrong answer as long as you find what works for you and work with that.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. Because, I mean, as you well know, body language is a huge portion of our communication. And so I find it interesting, and it's perfect for what you speak on as well, is not only does your energy focus to the audience, but you're also, in a sense, demanding even more attention and presence from the audience, because you're not giving them the enhanced communication, so to speak, with all the gestures, the movement, and the additional body language. Is that accurate, do you think?
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's a statement that I always like to tell people, sitting down is conversation and standing up is confrontation. And when you sit down and have a conversation with someone, it's never threatening. But when you stand up, it's almost, and everybody else is seated, it's almost like you telling them, this is what I believe and this is how it should be and stuff. But when you're seated and they are seated, then it's a conversation. It's just a sharing. And it's monk style. And
monk style. You should get that monkstyle.com.
I should. I should go take it right now.
I just took it. Sorry, it's too late. Now you owe me $1,000 to get it. Just the way it works.
Sure, I'm gonna take it. And yeah, I mean, monks have been doing this, teaching this way for thousands of years. And normally, what happens is monks would gather under a tree, and where it's shady, away from the hot sun, and they'd sit there, and people would gather around them, and everybody would be seated, and a conversation would take place.
Yeah.
And it's just easier to focus. But again, like you're right, there's no right or wrong way to do this, and you can get a message across laying dancing anywhere you want. For me, it works really well.
Right. So you mentioned the word focus. Let's talk about that. A lot of your teachings, from what I understand, has to do with focus and where you place your energy. So from important conversations, let's say, and pretty much all conversations can be important, what is your take on how somebody can be present in that moment, be in the same space with other individual? What are some adages or anything that might help us focus better?
Concentration is a big topic, I think, in today's world, where so many people are so easily distracted and labeled ADD and ADHD and all these kind of things. I think two things are necessary to learn how to be better at concentration. One is you actually have to learn how to concentrate. Okay. And most people aren't taught how to concentrate at all. I travel all around the world and I speak, and I always ask people, has anybody ever taught you how to concentrate? And the answer is always, you go to school and the teacher tells you concentrate on your work, but nobody tells you how to, right? They always tell you to do it. I remember growing up, and my teacher used to say to me, and my parents would say to me, concentrate on this, concentrate on eating your food. But nobody ever tells you how to do it. So if you don't learn to concentrate, how can you concentrate?
How do we learn how to concentrate?
Oh.
I want to know. Give me the 5-step formula to concentration.
That's right. The next 10 minutes. Give me the secret. And the second part is that, if you don't learn how to concentrate, you won't know how to concentrate. Secondly, is if you don't practice concentration, how can you be good at it? And most people never practice something. The only way to be good at something is if you practice it over and over again. So what people practice throughout the whole day is being distracted. You pick up your phone, you're texting, and then the phone rings, you talk to somebody, and then you go to email, you're emailing, and then you realize that you haven't finished your text message. So you go back to your text message, and then you get a notification that someone liked your post on Facebook, so you switch to Facebook, and you like back, and you comment, and then you say, well, I should really tweet this, and you tweet this, and then you go back to emailing, and then you realize you haven't finished your text message, and this goes on all day.
I have never experienced that.
No,
I'm
never experienced that, and most people have never experienced that. They probably have no idea what I'm talking about. And people do this, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. So imagine if you were practicing something.
Yeah. I think Skype might have booted. Are you there? Skype. There it is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you got lost. Skype didn't want us concentrating on you. So can you, the last thing we heard was they're practicing it 12, 14 hours a day.
So if you're practicing that 12, 14 hours a day, what would you be good at? You'd be good at being distracted. And if you do this 7 days a week, or every month, every year, eventually you just be an expert at being distracted.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can we start our practice of concentration?
The first key to learning how to concentrate is to learn how the mind works. So if you don't know how the mind works, you can't control it. And if you can't control it, you can't focus it. Mm. And a simple way to look at how the mind works to understand that there's a separation between awareness and the mind. They're two different things. So if you look at yourself as awareness moving through different regions of the mind, every time your awareness gets pulled away, you use your will and you bring your awareness back. So, for example, I'm speaking with you right now. If my awareness goes away because my phone is vibrating and it shifts over there, I bring my awareness back to you. It shifts away again, I bring my awareness back to you. So let's define concentration. I'd like to define concentration as the ability to keep your awareness on one thing for an extended period of time. So every time your awareness drifts away, you bring it back. It drifts away, you bring it back. And what eventually happens when you practice this is that the duration of how long your awareness goes away becomes shorter and shorter. So for example, I'm speaking to you and then my awareness starts to drift away while you're talking. It might go away for 2 minutes before I realize, oh, I'm daydreaming and I'm not listening to Shari. Eventually it'll be 1 minute, then 30 seconds, then 15 seconds, then 10 seconds, and then eventually you'll just be able to hold your awareness on one thing for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the simplified understanding of how the mind works, and it doesn't really have to get any more complicated than that. And the way I practice it is I integrate this practice into my everyday life. So for example, whenever I'm speaking with somebody, I give them my undivided attention. And so if I speak with people 3-4 hours a day, there's 3-4 hours in the day to practice being concentrated. So if I'm on the phone with someone, I'm not typing, I close my laptop and I just focus on talking on the phone with the person. When I'm done, I hang up and then I go back to work on the computer. I'm having a cup of coffee, a beer with someone. Yes, I did say beer. I keep my awareness on them. If it drifts away, I bring it back. And I just practice doing this all day. And I practice doing one thing at a time. And this whole concept of multitasking is actually a myth.
Right.
You know, multitasking is the ability for your awareness to switch from one thing to another so rapidly that it gives you a sense that you're doing many things at one time. But
you're not.
You can just go Google if multitasking is a myth, and you'll find a whole bunch of articles from scientists and people that are discovering only now that multitasking doesn't exist. But monks have known this for thousands of years.
I love, I heard you talk about discipline, and I think just it's lost so often about the idea of practice. Like the concept that we are practicing distraction is very eye-opening to me because it's absolutely true. A lot of people ask me about stage fright. Well, you know, how do I get over stage fright? And I have a lot of breathing techniques that they can use, but I always say you have to practice this so that when you need it, it only takes a split second. But for the first few times, it may take 5 minutes, then 2 minutes. And you talked about the importance of creating discipline through making your bed every morning. And I love this. I still haven't gotten there yet.
Are you serious?
I don't like it.
It's been like a month and you haven't made the bed once?
But here's the thing. Okay, just so I don't get on your bad side here. I have developed I do have like a morning routine now of I get up in the morning, I meditate for just however long I need to, my body tells me to. So it's about like anywhere from 8 minutes to 20 minutes. And then I journal, and then I do yoga or some sort of workout. Like that's and then I get my cup of coffee. That's the morning routine. So it's discipline. It's just not with making my bed.
Well, the concept with making the bed is not so much about making the bed. It's that whole topic that I covered in Toronto was about developing willpower. You know, how do you develop that will? And that will needs to be cultivated. We all have a certain amount of will. Some people have more will than another person. But will is like a muscle and can actually be developed. And one of the ways to develop will is to finish what you start. So the whole concept of making a bed is that you're finishing the process of sleep. So before you go to sleep, you floss, you brush your teeth, you put your pajamas on, then you go to sleep, and then when you wake up in the morning, you make your bed. So you're finishing the process of sleep. And every time you finish what you start, you develop a little bit more will because it requires a tremendous amount of will to finish something.
That's
and
good.
making your bed is not an easy discipline to do. I mean, some people have told me it's one of the hardest things they've ever done in their life.
Wow.
I had an entrepreneur in San Diego tell me once he had come on a retreat of mine that I had done in Asia, And he went back and he made his bed for 1 year. And he told me at the end of the year that this was one of the hardest things he's ever had to do in his life.
And why was it hard?
The consistency. You know, anybody can start anything for a short period of time. I mean, come December 15th, December 20th, everybody's coming up with New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to jog, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. What happens on January 15th? How many people are actually doing everything? Yeah. What happens now in the end of June? How many people are sticking to their New Year's resolution?
Right. Or even remember what it was.
Exactly. Or even remember what it was. So it's the consistency of practice that creates sustainable change.
Yeah.
So most people are just having little spikes, basically,
in
their life, as opposed to creating almost a very gradual curve of change, you know, and that requires will and discipline. And you start with the simple, small things in your life, like making your bed.
All right, fine. I'll start making my bed. Fine.
I want you to send me a text with a picture of your bed. That's what everybody does.
Okay, all right. I do have a lot of pillows, so it will look very pretty whenever I actually do it.
There you go. And then it'll be very uplifting as well. So every time you walk into your room, you look at this beautiful bed that's really nicely made, and it'll uplift you.
That's one way to look at it.
No, it is. I walk into my bedroom, and it's very uplifting.
That's great. That's great. So let's talk about observation, because this is where I heard you give an analogy of a football player, a soccer player, and the person watching the soccer match, and the difference in observation there. Can you share that with us?
Yes. So if you've ever watched a live soccer match with friends on TV, and the guy's dribbling the ball down the field, and all your friends are going, pass it to him, and then he passes it to somebody else, and everybody goes, oh, he's an idiot, right? And that's the guy running in the field that's being paid like $50 million a year at least, without bonuses and advertising and sponsorship and things like that. And he's the idiot because he doesn't know where he's passing. But the reason that you see differently is because your vantage point is a camera in the last row of the stadium. Right on top of the stadium, there's a camera pointed on the whole field. You get to see the overview. And when you get to see the overview, you're able to make a better decision. Whereas a soccer player who's running with the ball, who's highly skilled and talented, can only see in front of him, and therefore can only make a decision based on that. So what happens is when you actually practice concentration, prolonged states of concentration cultivates the power of observation. It's a byproduct of prolonged states of concentration. So if I go to the gym and I lift weights, I'll gain muscle. It's just a natural byproduct of lifting weights. Whether I like it or I don't like it, I will have muscle. If I practice concentration more and more and more throughout the day, the byproduct of that is the power of observation. And in simple words, or you put it in monk language, observation is mountaintop perspective. If you were on top of the mountain, you could see everything, and everything would make sense. So observation is an amazingly powerful quality, I feel, and something that I've found has helped me in my personal life, in my family life, in my business. Just being observant, especially in business, it's so helpful. Because when you're observant, you get so much of information. And based on that information, you make so much better decisions.
So this is where I really get into sort of a more spiritual side of communication. And it's one of the first lessons I share in my seminars is observation is key. You have to be observant. But in order to be more effective in your communications, you need to be able to observe the other person without placing the judgment with the observation. Just take it in as data and, okay, that's interesting, they reacted in this way, versus, as I think we naturally do sometimes, I see that about that individual, so I'm going to place this label on that individual as they're uptight or, they're lazy or whatever it is. Is that along the lines of some monk style?
I would say so. You know, I look at observation as just not engaging, rather just being observant of just viewing something without getting engaged in it. So, for example, people say to me, so if you're so concentrated, for example, you're sitting on the subway and you're concentrated and you're reading your book, or you're just sitting there, what if someone comes to attack you, or there's a weird guy that gets on the subway, what do you do then? I said, if you're observant enough, you're just observant of everything that's going on around you. You're just not taking it on. So it never ever becomes overwhelming. There's almost like a degree of separation between you and everything else. It's just that you're aware of all the details in front of you.
So this is where I get a little confused. So concentration to me feels like laser focus on one thing. Yeah. And observation feels like you're expanding that scope to all of these other areas. So therefore, observation to me, and help me clarify, almost feels like you're shifting your awareness very quickly to take in as many details as possible. Is that right? Is that not right? How would you explain that?
It's almost like your perspective changes when you're observant. You walk into a room and you're observant of people and everything in the room immediately. And it's, without getting into too much detail, it actually stimulates this part of the mind up here called the superconscious area of the mind, which is your intuitive area. Mm-hmm. And when you start to concentrate more, you focus your conscious mind, which is in this region. And that actually allows you to take your awareness to a deeper region, which is here in your superconscious. And then from that perspective is when you get your mountaintop perspective. So it's not like you're shifting your awareness all the time from one thing to another, where I go like, oh, look, there's a vase in that corner of the room. There's a mug over here, and there's a table over there, and there's a chair over here. That would be distraction. It's rather that you see everything and just observe everything, but you're not almost taking it on. I don't know if I'm explaining this very clearly or not.
Well, you almost touched on what helped me understand this when I saw you in Toronto was, if you don't mind giving this the 101 monk style version of the conscious, superconscious, and ultra conscious. I can't remember which one it was.
The superconscious, yeah.
Yeah, because you mentioned something about there's 3 levels, and focusing concentration helps you break through that second layer into that intuitive part. Can you give us that 101 version?
Yeah, so I mean, if in a simplified way, you could look at the mind and having 3 states: the conscious mind, which is right here, mm-hmm. and that's governed by the 5 senses and the physical body and things around you. It's the driver's seat almost. The subconscious is back here, and that's basically the storehouse of information. It's almost like a hard drive that stores every experience you've ever had in your life, whether you're aware of it or not aware of it, gets registered in your subconscious, and each experience has emotion attached to it, and it sits there vibrating in your subconscious. And then this is your superconscious region of your mind, which is this creative, spiritual, godly, divine, intuitive area of the mind up here. And if you were to stack them up in layers, you would have the conscious mind, and then above it, the subconscious, and then above that, the intuitive superconscious area of the mind. Mm-hmm. In order to access the intuitive area of the mind, which is on level 3, you need to go from level 1, the conscious mind, you need to go through level 2, which is the subconscious mind, to get to the 3rd level, which is the intuitive area of the mind. For most people, the subconscious is so cluttered with unresolved emotional experiences from the past and things that put away and don't want to face in their life, that they're naturally not very intuitive. People function almost all the time in their conscious area of the mind or in that subconscious layer in the middle. So people who learn to concentrate are able to almost tap into that 3rd layer of the mind, which is the intuitive area of the mind. It's almost like an acupuncturist needle that's so thin and narrow and sharp that he can just stick it right through your skin into you without even causing you to bleed. Mm-hmm. So when your focus is so concentrated like that, it's almost like you can penetrate through the subconscious even and get to this intuitive area of the mind.
Yeah.
And then one of the byproducts of that, imagine the intuitive mind is so high up here that you just become observant of everything around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I struggle to describe it sometimes, the intuitive area of the mind, to even put it in words. But I know when I'm not functioning in that intuitive area of the mind, I'm not observant.
Right.
And what are some of the easiest ways to tell that you're functioning in that intuitive area of the mind, the superconscious area of the mind, is the first sign is the power of observation. You start to become more observant. You see your girlfriend and you know she's done something different with her hair. And you go, oh, what did you do with your hair? Mm-hmm. She goes, oh, well, I curled it, thank you. But most people aren't even observant of that at all, you know. Mm-hmm. And another second sign of functioning in that superconscious area of the mind is that your timing is always very good.
I love this, yeah.
Yeah, your timing is perfect all the time. You walk up to the subway and the train is pulling in, and you meet the right people at the right time in your life. You're looking for somebody to help you with marketing. You meet somebody who knows somebody who can help you with marketing. Everything just happens at the right time, and that's the nature of the superconscious area of the mind. So every human being on earth has these three layers of the mind. It's really where they choose to function at any given point in time.
Yeah.
And most people function in the conscious mind and in the subconscious.
And do you see I believe that there is such strong power with words. Like what you say, Maya Angelou has a quote, words are things. What you say, you're putting that out into the world. And I feel like it's sort of a law of attraction type of a thing, that the more you put something out into the world, that creates that vibration, it comes back. I was just watching last night this show, I don't know if you know of Ricky Gervais and Stephen, I can't remember, but they've got his podcast. They send out this guy on a show, a television show, who's like this, he's a whinger, basically. He just complains the whole time. He moans the entire time and he's going on these amazing travels, and he's complaining the entire time. He gets to spend an evening on a desert island, and it's raining the whole time, and he's complaining, and then as he's leaving, the sun comes out, and I remember him saying, isn't that typical? Isn't that just like my life? That the day that I'm leaving is when the sun shows up. So I feel like putting those words out into the world, you actually are getting some of that back. Is that a function of that super conscious and the timing thing that you discuss?
That's really more to do with the subconscious area of the mind.
Okay.
And how it works is that the combination of words and visualization create a strong pattern in the subconscious. So if somebody repeats all the time, bad things always happen to me. You know, I just have the worst timing and I have the worst luck. These things always happen to me. So they say it, they visualize it, and it creates a pattern in the subconscious. So the subconscious, you can almost look at it like a piece of clay that's a little bit moldable. So every time you repeat a series of words, like an affirmation, with the visualization, you're putting an imprint on the subconscious, a pattern. And then when you put emotion into it, that pattern actually starts to vibrate in your subconscious. So for example, that man who said, isn't this typical, the sun is shining just when I'm leaving. And he says it with such emotion, filled with emotion. Oh, it just always happens to me. I just don't have this luck, and this is me. So he's created that pattern by repeating those words all the time. Now he's saying it with such feeling. Feeling is emotion, and when emotion is infused into a pattern in the subconscious, it starts to vibrate in the subconscious. And it vibrates at a particular frequency, and that frequency is determined by the emotion. So the emotion is sadness, it could be vibrating at 50.6 kilohertz. I'm just making up some random number.
Okay.
You know, happiness could be 100 megahertz or something like that. And then anything of a similar vibration gets attracted to it, because emotion is magnetic. And then it starts to attract things of a similar nature to it. So for example, you know, boy goes out with girl, they date for a couple of years, they have a great relationship, then they break up, She's really sad. She cries for 6 months. Her friends console her, so take her out shopping, eat ice cream. After 6 months, she says, I'm totally over him. I'm never going to date a guy like that anymore. What's an ex-boyfriend?
Is it like him?
Very much like him. I mean, have you seen this before in like among your friends?
Oh yes, oh yes.
People, this happens all the time. Why? Because in the 2 years that she dated him, there was so many experiences created with so much high emotion infused into those experiences that are sitting in the subconscious mind that are just vibrating. So just say she dated Tom and Tom vibrates at 70.5 kilohertz. Okay, this is the engineering side of me coming up. 70.5 kilohertz. And that's Tom's nature. Maybe he's selfish, he's a little bit aggressive, he doesn't really think too much about her, he's not very empathetic, and so because she has all that and she really hasn't dealt with those emotions, now she goes out dating, she still has those patterns in her mind, and she'll start attracting anyone close to 70.5 kilohertz, 70 hertz, 70 kilohertz, 71 kilohertz, anyone of that similar vibration gets drawn to her. And she'll keep going through these patterns till she actually deals with the emotions in the subconscious. So that's all to do with this region of the mind back here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yes, we can create in our lives anything that we want, but if we knew how the mind worked and we knew how to program it. Most people don't know how it works, but they just do it naturally anyway, and then they either create a positive or negative life for themselves.
Right. Yes. I just find it so fascinating when people... they just the power that words have in somebody's life, because language is I feel in a lot of ways how we access so much of what's going on in the mind, that's sort of our pathway, and when people don't recognize the power that has, the weight that it puts out into the world, then they're not understanding the power that they have with the world around them and what they bring to themselves and also put out there as well. So I think your practice and your teachings is absolutely fascinating, and I could sit under a tree with you and listen all day long and just absorb all the information. And so go get Monk Style and monklanguage.com if you don't already, because have like a little...
Actually, I gotta buy it from you now for $1,000.
That's I run a racket. What can I say? Girls gotta make money.
It's just very observant. That's all.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Well, Dandapani, as always, it is so much fun talking with you, and hope we can do this again sometime in the future.
Sure.
I will, of course, put links to your website for everybody in the comment section below. And what's next for you? What's on the horizon?
At the end of this month, at the end of July, I'm home for about 4 weeks, which is a very rare treat for me.
Nice.
But the end of July, I go to Sydney, Australia, and presenting, doing a closing keynote for a conference called Wired for Wonder, which is being held by the Commonwealth Bank of Australia for entrepreneurs, business leaders from around Australia. So I have an 18-minute presentation there, and it's titled Your Mind is Your Greatest Asset, Greatest Tool.
Fantastic.
So it's important for you to learn how to use it.
I'm
also doing a couple of the workshops with the YPO, Young Presidents Organization, for that as well.
Yeah, and for anybody interested, Dandapani also hosts retreats and workshops places all around the world, correct?
Yes, I do retreats a couple of times a year, and we usually go to some really exotic location. I have one coming up to the Himalayas in Nepal. We're going to spend 3 days trekking in the Himalayas, 3 days staying in a mountain lodge, having classes every day and study, and then 3 days in the jungles in Nepal. And we'll stay in a lodge in the jungle and ride elephants out every day looking for tigers and rhinos and bathing elephants in the river. So it's a 10-day program.
Wow.
And we'll sit under trees and have classes.
That's a tough life, man.
I know, it sucks.
Well, thank you again, and like I said, everybody reach out to Dandapani, follow him on Twitter, follow him on Facebook, all of that good stuff, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for spending time with me.
Thank you, Shari. It's been a real pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.